Hey guys, Larry Chen and Drew Leslie here. As you guys probably noticed, we did take down the first BMW E36 Larry's Lemon video because we took a lot of missteps and we got quite a bit of hate. So I wanted to talk with Drew on video call here with you guys so you guys can see the whole story and you guys can see that there was no ill intention at all whatsoever. Drew and I are friends. Drew did not scam me.
Yeah, I think adding the right context to the first video is really the mission of this video, right? And it took a lot of conversation in 4 days for us to finally decide it was the best move to remove that video. It just wasn't going in a direction that really helped anybody. Half the people thought I scammed Larry. The other half had their own opinion that wasn't positive. And we want to come out, we want to explain what the actual context of the story is, why we purchased cheap cars. Yes, we did it on purpose. And what was the mission here? So that's what we're going to spend the next 10 15 minutes talking about.
And this is something that I normally don't do, but I feel like it's important enough. Me being a partner in EAG, it doesn't make sense why I would want to put the brand down or talk bad about the brand in any way. Drew, Adam LZ, and I are in partnership together to make this brand thrive, and we have the best interest in this brand. We really, really want to show it in its best light, and you guys could probably see in the past couple of videos, this whole project from the beginning was for us to get the not most desirable cars. Like they weren't supposed to be falling apart, but they were supposed to be, as you put it, edgy cars that needed some love, but that still would make this road trip across Europe initially. And then to showcase the skill of EAG and the technicians and the painters and the body guys and the restoration folks, the whole team, to showcase their skill, we would take this car that is a little rough around the edges back to the US for a full restoration to make it look like a brand new car, similar to what I'm doing with my R34. I mean, there was just, it was almost like a perfect storm of bad things that happened.
The original concept of how this whole trip started, in this, I should say project started, was late last summer. Larry and I were sitting around probably on one of the things that we were doing together, and we talked about how fun it would be as a group of friends to do a BMW Euro delivery trip. BMW doesn't offer it anymore. Somehow from last summer to this summer, it's kind of evolved into using the trip to simply promote the EEG rejuvenation process, not the EEG quality of cars that we buy and sell. That's a different department in our business. But specifically letting the audience know, if you have a BMW, whether it's an E39 M5, we just got one today, actually. It's a 125,000 mile E39 M5. It's the original owner. The guy's put all the mileage on himself, and he wants to rejuvenate it. He wants to spend 40 grand putting it back to brand new. Cool, let's do it. Most people don't know that we do that, and we have the availability, we have the business model, we have 5 different buildings. That's all we do. So it's like this trip turned into the current project. It's like it never was meant to be with perfect cars. We didn't even want them to be good cars, because I feel, as the EEG operator and primary business owner here with Mike Kent, who has been here 10 years, we can't really promote the EEG rejuve process with a car that is already in EEG quality. So we went out and we searched for very inexpensive cars. These were not pricey, right? This is not $75,000 Evo E36, into S50 B32 is what I mean by saying that. We wanted a very specific motor. We wanted a very specific spec, but like high mileage. So hindsight is always 20/20. We should have told the story in a little bit more detail.
We just didn't tell the story very well. So let's just kind of start from the beginning. Tell us about the car portion of it, and like you acquiring the car. Yeah. Tell us, about the price, all that. And then I'll tell you my side of things. So then the audience kind of understands why I reacted the way I reacted and all of that. Yeah. Yeah. It's just a bad thing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I know. It's like we kind of want to laugh, but at the same time, we want to be a little more serious on this video. We have looked at half a dozen cars, 5 to 7. At this point, it's hard to remember, and the quality kept getting lower and lower, quite frankly. But I was on a mission specifically to find a Dakar yellow M3 coupe with M cross fabric in a manual transmission, obviously not an SMG. And there were a few. I mean, we ended up at one point, we went from a Dakar yellow coupe to a Dakar yellow vert convertible.
Yeah, and then you found a Estoril blue car, you found some other cars. And let's be very specific about this. This is not EAG as a company buying a car to sell in the US to anybody. This was just for this project specifically. EAG would never try to buy something of this caliber, of something that is falling apart. Never. EAG buys cars that are already almost close to perfect. Then they make it perfect. But this was just supposed to be a challenge. And that's why you guys did this.
We got closer and closer and closer to the deadline of when we needed to get the car for you specifically. And this one fell into my lap. It was a very inexpensive E36. Like basically it was 20,000 euros. At this point, I think it was 22,000 euros in the States. A spec of this caliber, or sorry, spec of this type in EAG caliber quality, we would be very happy selling the car for near $100,000 if it was an EAG quality car, low miles, perfect spec, perfect condition, fully rejuvened, all that. So to kind of give some context of the price point that we normally would fight for if it were an EAG car versus specifically buying a car for the trip. To promote the EAG rejuvenation process, it's almost 3 to 4 times the price from what we ended up spending. So we bought the car. I bought the car, to be very clear. Like I spent my money on it. I spent my money to fix the car. Larry has not paid for anything. That's the other thing we didn't talk about.
Right. Yeah, I haven't paid for anything yet. But so tell us about the buying process, like the actual scam part.
So the way that the word scam worked its way into the video, which I think at this point was a little overused, and then I think some people thought I scammed you. We paid for a very inexpensive, what I would call almost like a half-assed inspection on the car to make sure basically the car ran. It wasn't 2 cars welded together. And we knew we needed to do work to the car so that it was suitable for a road trip, right? We knew that. Fine, whatever. And it came back, thumbs up. We giggled about it quite a bit on video during the drive because we personally thought it was kind of funny, right? But I bought a car that was, basically $20,000 and it should have been high teens. So it's not like I spent 80,000 on a car that should have been high teens. It was, we ended up buying the car. We think that the head had a crack in it and we had coolant in a couple of the cylinders. We ultimately knew that this thing wouldn't have made it, from North London to London. So we kind of went into emergency mode once it got to Evolve, and we paid for transport to get it there. And we bought a new motor, and we ended up fixing a bunch of other random things for the fun factor of the trip. And we played that up quite a bit, right? For example, you got a brand new exhaust. Gosh, at this point, we did all the fluid changes, diff service. We ended up doing tires. Obviously, we did suspension.
You paid for all of that. And here I am completely in the dark. I didn't know any of this was happening because, Drew is planning this trip, planning it along with Adam, along with myself. And we kind of had this fun, like, inside joke thing going on where I didn't actually know legitimately what the color of this car was because Drew was sending me so many different cars to look at and different prices. And I was looking at different invoices. And then, and I kid you not, like I got an invoice for Techno M3. Okay. So the purple one, right? Right. And then you also sent me like a Estoril blue one. And then you told me the price for that, all that stuff. I didn't hear anything about it being yellow at all. Like I didn't know. Yeah. And also you were dealing with all this stuff. You were paying out of pocket to fix it and all that. And I was left in the dark. In fact, you even called one of my guys that came with us on this trip to ask if you should tell me, just for the surprise factor of like how much of a lemon this car was.
Right.
And
Right.
him thinking it would be better for shock value actually really worked against us, right? So he told you, don't tell me. So the shock was genuinely real. It was real. It was just because it was just planned badly. You know, none of that was acting at all. That's why it was probably so cringy. And also that's why I think you and I were giggling, because of the fact that it was a coping mechanism. I was like, what did we get ourselves into? You know, and that's me not knowing that it was a lot cheaper. And also, we just at that time should have just reminded the audience, hey, what this was for anyways was for us to strip it down to bare metal. It didn't really matter the condition of the car, but me being me, just being an emotional guy when it comes to cars. You know, I love my cars. I mean, you see, that's your car back there, by the way. Yeah.
So much for me being a scammer. One of my cars is on your back.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I fall in love with them. You know, I've spent just the last 2 days, I've spent 10 hours working on my R32 GTR. I have cuts on all over my hands. I'm a lover of cars and I love these things, and I wanted to love this car. And it was just bad emotionally, especially us traveling, 24 hours to get there. We just didn't plan it very well. And it just didn't really come across on camera very well. With that said, everybody hasn't seen the rest of the series where I start falling in love with a thing and we really enjoy road tripping it. And it did make it the entire length of the way, over 3,000 miles. It did drive on the Nürburgring, made it 6 laps. I could have gone 8 laps, but I ran out of gas because I was driving so much. We should have told the story better, and that's where we messed up. Everybody's dragging the EAG name through the mud, and it's just unwarranted, and it's our fault for just not telling the story right.
Let's talk about the invoice real quick. The invoice is to keep you apprised of expenses that I've paid, not for you to pay me. Get that very clear. And the price of the car is only one portion of the expense that's gone into this. Obviously, I've spent roughly $10,000 on top of the car getting it to be able to take a trip. So let's go back to the story. It was originally going to be a 2-part project. First portion of the project is the trip, less about EAG. It's not really about EAG. It's about the camaraderie of all our group of friends. I think it was 13 of us at one point in time, and we're just having the trip of a lifetime. It was an experience. The second portion where EAG does get involved is the rejuvenation. We ship them back to the US. They come to Cincinnati where we're at, and we spend the entire next 9 to 12 months rejuvenating these entire cars. Day 2 or day 3, I don't remember roughly what day it was. It was in that time frame. We all had so much fun on this. It was a 13-day trip. Very early on in the process, we were like, we should add a third step to this project, and that's doing a second road trip once the cars are done with rejuvenation, to compare the first trip and the second trip, pre-rejuve, post-rejuve, and talk about the benefits of having your car rejuvenated. We didn't even talk about that. So either we are the worst storytellers ever.
Okay.
Not to joke, but man.
Here's another thing, not to defend myself or us. For the entire duration of the trip and then some, I was posting about the lemon, talking about how bad it was. And so many individuals came up to me, as I mentioned in Adam's video, when we were at Ultrace, and wherever we went, so many people came up to me apologizing for their countrymen. I told them, no harm, no foul. It's not a big deal. It's just a car. Me being the person that's super emotional, I thought, oh man, this car's just too far gone. You just pulled me aside right away and said, look, let me just do what I'm good at. And what I'm good at is taking a car like this that may be falling apart, that's a little rough around the edges, and making it look new. And let me just do that. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And then from then on, the trip went so smooth and so good every step of the way. And honestly, it was a dream Euro tour. it's definitely a bummer that it got received right away in such a bad way. But you know
It's
what? It just
wild.
happens. It just
Yeah,
happens.
I mean, I guess it hasn't happened. I don't think it's happened to either one of us in the past. It really is a bummer because it's the best 13 consecutive days that I've had on a trip ever. What an insane experience that we all enjoyed, right? And then we come back in video one, it's like right to the ground, and it got really personal. Like I would love to say none of it was hurtful, but that it isn't. It's just not reality, right? And that's to go back to why we're having this message. But other thing I want to say, not to get off subject. So I closed on EEG January 1st of this year, 2024, and learned a lot within the first couple of months of what I didn't know about EEG, and it all stemmed around the rejuvenation process. I had no idea it was so intense, and it is what it is today. And it has gotten better every year over the last really 10 years. And from last summer when we came up with this idea until we ended up doing the trip, the reason we ended up buying cheap, crappy cars was specifically to promote the rejuve process, right? It doesn't really help explain the story by starting with a 9 out of 10. We wanted to make a 4 out of 10, a 9 out of 10. So we should have probably just told that story a little bit more on camera.
My original intention with this is to keep this car forever. I'm at a point in my life, and I've openly talked about this a lot. I'm collecting cars that I want to keep. We're very lucky in that we are able to work hard enough and do all this incredible content where I can enjoy these cars in this way. And I'm starting to collect these cars that I've always wanted. The E36 M3 specifically has meant so much to me so early on. And I've said this on social all across, that it's the first sports car I've ever ridden in, or first sporty car that I've ever ridden in. And I had a chance to experience. And then around that time period was when the BMW films came out. And it really just drew me into the brand. And I just fell in love with the brand and what it stood for, So in the back of my mind, even though everybody knows I'm a JDM guy, I love my Toyotas and I love my Nissans. I've always had that passion also for BMWs. And that's another reason why maybe I was a little emotional. I was thinking this was supposed to be the car that I was going to keep for the rest of my life. Quality wise, I was expecting something that just the way we bought it could have made it the whole way, and maybe there would be some problems along the way. And that's also why we brought tools and we brought things to potentially fix what would break, but not coming with a really, really her motor.
But the only tool you needed was your gaff tape.
Yes. Pieces did fall off, and I used gaff tape to dress up the trim a little bit,
Right.
So with all that said, we have 2 more videos in this series, and we're going to release them. We hope you guys enjoy them, because later on, I do end up really falling in love with this car, because man, was it fast. Oh man, this thing cruised at 145 mile an hour on the Autobahn, on the unrestricted portions, like a dream, just cruising. It sounded so good too. It's the best sounding car out of all 3, with that Super Sprint exhaust and also that E-Venturi intake. Oh, it was just a dream.
It sounded so good.
It was so good.
Sounded so good.
I really, really enjoyed driving it on the ring too. So hope you guys enjoyed watching it. And Drew and I, again, best of friends.
Hopefully now that you understand the whole mission, the reason we did this trip, this is more of a camaraderie, guys enjoying some time together in cars that we love. And we intentionally purchased cars that weren't awesome. I don't want to sound like a flex or anything, but any of us on that trip could have purchased any car that we wanted to. We chose not to. And there's a reason for that. So please don't drag, personal stuff into it, because I think the context was taken way out of point there. So
Yeah.
enjoy it. Like I said, it took a lot for us to continue. We're going to send the 2 videos out.
What's also coming up soon is me going back to EAG and checking out some of the updates. They updated the photo studio so they can have a lot more options in terms of photography. And also, I just want to see another inventory update, and hopefully I get to drive some of the cars, because the last time we went was wintertime and I didn't have a chance to take any of the cars out. This next time, I want to go, and hopefully Adam can come, and then we can drive some incredible vehicles like some E36 lightweights, some M1s and 1Ms, and
both.
Yeah, all of the Skittles colors of the E92s that you have been collecting. There's just so much to do with this brand, and I'm honestly, what I'm really looking forward to is Larry's Lemon, or I don't know, some people are saying that it should be called Lemon Drop after it's restored. Parked right here in place of that blue Audi. That's your car.
I know.
You know, like I cannot wait to drive that car here in the US because of how amazing it drives and how great it sounds. Lewis said in the video, and he wasn't lying, it's my best sounding car. And I feel like I have some pretty good sounding cars.
Yeah, from my perspective, man, driving behind you, because I couldn't keep up for 13 days, it just sounds so good. So good. And look, I look forward to getting this car completed. I think from my perspective, I want to see what the audience, how they respond, what they say. And now that they understand, everybody watching, you guys understand the purpose of this entire project. If you want to see it go through the reju process, which was the intent, to buy the crummy car, the edgy car, the crappy car, and send it through, let us know. That was the purpose.
I'm going to document it just like I've been documenting the R34 rebuild. I'm going to be making trips out to Cincinnati, Ohio, and documenting the major milestones of this build. You know, that was the point of this.
I do want to talk about Mike Kent.
Yeah.
Mike Kent is you know, my main partner. Let's be clear. Mike Kent is the guy that I purchased EAG with. You and Adam are our partners in the business, but mainly on special projects. Mike Kent has been here 10 years. He started as really the parts guy. He ended up he created the rejuvenation department, by the way. That was his thing. And then he became the rejuvenation director. And now he is really the main operator with me. You know, that guy is an almanac of information. He's not going anywhere. He is the one of the captains behind the ship. Like, for people that know him or know EAG, just, you know,
he's incredible. He's so knowledgeable. If you guys want to watch the inventory video with me and Mike, he just has so much knowledge. Like, he just can't stop talking about BMWs. It's incredible. Yeah,
it's nuts. Like, I think the only thing that I know more than him on is colors. Thank God, right? It's the Skittles or the rainbow.
You're the guy. You're E92 Drew, man.
I know.